You're listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast, celebrating hunting dog heritage, competition, and community. United Kennel Club has been the hunting dog sports home for Coonhounds, Beagles, Retrievers, Pointers, Cur, Feist, and more for over 125 years.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. This is your host, Trevor Wade. I'm the Coonhound Program Manager here at UKC, and I'm joined today by Alan Gingrich, the Director of Hunting Ops. Alan, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, actually. Yeah, it's been a good Christmas season. It's been cold.
It's been very cold.
What do you think? What do you think of these temperatures?
Well, I was not used to them still. I did a lot of sitting around in the house this past week while we were out for Christmas and all that stuff.
Yeah, we had about 3 or 4 days where it's probably been as cold or probably colder than you've seen here in your 2 or 3 years here.
Yeah, I would say so. Just consistently cold. And during those times, especially for anybody listening to this podcast, they know how important it is to make sure that your dogs are well taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. That's for sure. I did a bunch out in my kennel. I have mine on the right side, on the southeast side of my building.
Yep.
You know, a little overhead like that. But I still got some tarps to just wrap around there, keep the wind off of them, you know.
Yep.
Need a good dry place. But that's always kind of fun to work with the dogs a little bit when you got cold weather coming in and have heated water bowls. They got all that stuff set up, so they're probably doing better than I am.
You go out there and they just poke their head out of
the
like, just fill it up. I'll be out there in a little bit. But
yeah. So did Brindley enjoy Christmas this year?
Oh, she had a blast.
Did she?
She had a blast.
Yeah.
I love this age right now. She's still at the age where she likes every present that she gets regardless. So it's been super fun. Yeah.
You know, I went to my youngest brother's house. He insisted I come over. The boys really wanted me to come over for Christmas, and they got their Christmas stuff, but I forgot how competitive Chutes and Ladders was.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm talking about the oldest boys like in first grade, and then there's the youngest ones, maybe 2, I guess, you know, and the middle one there. But I'm telling you, it was fun until the middle one was beating us all. Get up there about the second to the top row or whatever in this. Chutes and Ladders, and he gets the old chute all the way down to the bottom. Oh man, that was a terrible day.
Wanted to flip the board, didn't he? Oh yeah,
but no, that's always fun. It's, you know, I haven't played that game since we were little kids, but yeah,
that's
amazing. They still have that game.
Yeah, hard to beat it.
Yeah,
yeah. That's fun. That's fun. Hey,
it was funny.
It's been a good holiday season. We got New Year's coming up. This will actually be our first podcast of the New Year, sounds like. So I'm excited to have one today that we've kind of put out and been pushing the past couple of weeks, and that's a mailbag episode where we were wanting to kind of hear from all of our our base out there of listeners, hear what questions they want answered on air, and I think we got a pretty good selection of questions here.
Yeah, good. I looked at some of these that you put down and noted several of them here that we're going to cover. So, yeah, there's some good ones here, I think.
Yeah, and for anyone listening, we're going to start out here with some general questions, but hang around. We actually have a few squirrel hunting-specific questions. That'll be the first time we've really talked about our squirrel programs on this show. Got a few coonhound questions and a few beagle questions, so a little bit for everybody on here. So
there we go. Let's get with it.
We'll get into it. All right. Our first question we got here is from Jim from Ohio.
Yeah.
And Jim asks, I am interested in opening a club that hasn't held events for a while. Reopening the club is what he means here. He's reopening an old club that hasn't had events for a while and want to know what that procedure is to get that club opened again.
Yeah, well, the short answer is very simple. It's very easy. Not a whole lot you need to do other than notifying us and just simply call the office here in the hunting ops department, and about any one of our reps in the hunting ops department can help you. But that's the short answer of it. It's pretty simple, actually.
Yeah, there's a few, I guess, when you get into it, everyone is a little bit different, so it's hard to give just a straight basic question, but reaching out to us and getting an answer is the best way to do it. A lot of it has to do with how long a club's been inactive. You know, if it has been a year or two since the club held events, it's not going to be much trouble at all. You're still going to have an up-to-date conflict file. More than likely, just going to have to update some club officers and get the ball rolling that way.
Yep, that's it. You know, and sometimes there's some the reason they're inactive maybe just did not have any more events. You know, or they may have also been a result of UKC not approving them for any more events, so a club like that has been inactivated because of that, that we didn't approve them for any more events, that's a little different story. And sometimes we can look what that reasoning was. Oftentimes is they might not have sent their reports in a timely manner and got way behind in doing that, laxy-daisy on that, or maybe didn't pay their fees.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then it's not uncommon for us to get a question from a guy say, hey, we used to have events at this club just a few years ago, look back, and they haven't had an event since 1999.
Yeah.
And that's an instance where it's just as easy for everybody to fill out a new club application. You can still reuse that name, but obviously there's probably a lot of leadership changes within the club as far as officers go. The membership's going to look totally different. You may even have a new location where you're holding your events, and definitely the conflict file is going to be very outdated. Yep. So that's when we would just redo that whole thing.
Exactly. Yep. So they are fairly easy. We can get you squared away pretty quickly with just a phone call. We can look at see what the deal is, and we can give you a good, quick answer that way. Number 2, you have one here from Bob from North Carolina. Can you use a picture of my scorecard or an event report for me to process a missing report?
Yeah, also a short answer for that is unfortunately, no, we cannot. We don't accept any pictures of event reports, scorecards, even the new win receipts that we've been mailing out this year as an alternative to actually receiving the report from the host club.
Every event has an official, whether it's a hunt director or a master hounds, a licensed official, but those reports and the results of the event must come from those officials in a signed report. They're the only ones that can change anything. Sure, the scorecard is something, but that's something that they go off of. We were not there at the event to confirm this. The other part of it is that you might consider, not that we don't trust your word or anything like that, but that's not how we do business. Is you and I can fill out a scorecard too and take a picture of it and put up anything, and that's not going to suffice, so it needs to come from whoever the event officials were.
Yeah, I put taking a picture of the scorecard, the event report. That's great for tracking your wins, keeping track of all your wins and passes that you've accrued. But those things can be easily manipulated too, and you got to think about it from our perspective. And just to give you guys a peace of mind, we will try diligently to get in any missing reports that we have. We're always sending letters. Yeah. At a certain point, we'll start calling club members of the club, surrounding areas, field reps in the area, and we're going to do everything we can to get that in. And the host club's going to be held accountable if they aren't able to get it in, which is uncommon.
And I've found over the years, not being able to resolve something like that has been very, very far and few in between. You generally, by the time when you and I find out about a problem like that, it's after our reps in our department have basically tried everything with no response. Then that's when it comes to us, and generally that's when we start contacting presidents and other officials of the club, and usually we can get it resolved.
Yeah. So on to the next question here. This one comes from Joe from Louisiana, and simply it asks, how do we determine locations for our major events?
Yeah, good question. So there's events like the Winter Classic, our own events. I don't know if he's talking about, it just says major events. So, as far as our major events, UKC events like Winter Classic, Autumn Oaks, they kind of have a home that is set already in place. The Zones is one of our events. The World Zones moves around a little bit, as do the finals, so any club that's interested in hosting a zone or a World Final somehow should let us know that they're interested, and we can send them something, kind of a criteria and what it is that we look for. Some of those things we might look at are what? You have a couple notes here, I think.
Well, yeah, I think it's important to see where taking the zones or the World Finals into consideration. Where have they been the last few years? Obviously, those are events that we like to move around a little bit to make it accommodating for everybody. Look at the past, 5-6 years, see where they've been, and kind of go from there. That's a good jumping off point.
Yep.
We like to gauge the strength of the host club. Yeah. Putting on an event with 100+ dogs each day can be hard and tedious, and you got to have a strong host club. If they're having trouble getting in paperwork and paying for events and keeping in good standing with UKC, at the local event level, they're probably not ready to host a major event on that scale.
And really, it's probably easy for clubs that have the help, that have all the help they need and have the places to hunt and have the locations. There's a lot of things you look at. Obviously, your participants, if it's a big major event, they need lodging. They want to have places to eat, things like that. So there's a lot of different things you take into account.
Right.
You know, you don't want to have an event really. Nobody really wants to go to an event where that evening they got to drive 30 miles to a hotel.
Right.
You know, you look at things like that. So there's more than just the guide situation, but obviously you want to have safe places to hunt. And the point I'm trying to get at is these days, you know, we know that clubs are struggling more than they did 20, 30 years ago as far as help and membership. So, but if you are a club that can handle a major event, it's probably easier today to be considered for a major event than it used to be 20, 30 years ago when you were competing with more other clubs for an event like that.
Absolutely. The list is a lot shorter now than it would have been, 20 years ago even.
And we still have, thankfully, we still have a lot of clubs that can handle some pretty big events.
Absolutely. And just some other things, if you're a club thinking, and you're thinking about putting on a major event, like you said, quality guides who can get you in safe woods and you can score coons is important. And you get 100 dogs in the woods to do that. What about judges? You know, if we take the World Finals down to Florida, are we going to have to take 25 non-hunting judges with us? You know, having a strong base of judges in an area where it's a short distance away is important and key for holding an event like that. What about a facility in the town? You know, do you have a fairgrounds? Do you have buildings that can accommodate a 100-dog show and a dinner and all those sorts of things? Obviously, parking is a big issue. You know, we had to make we had to get some things changed for even the TOC finals to accommodate parking the last year.
Yeah, just for instance, let's say Plot Days is usually in the middle of summer.
Yeah,
you know, that's another one. You know, major events. We're not just talking about World Finals or zones and things like that. There's other events. You know, that state events, state hunts, state championships, breed association events. And I go back to Plot Days. You know, is in the middle of summer. You want to put on Plot Days. Well, in July and August, you really want to have a shady place, a place where there's enough shade, you know, because today we might not think about it as much here in January, but, you know, come July and August, people don't want to just leave there and shouldn't have to leave their dogs just out in their boxes or under their trucks, you know, shady places to have it and just a lot of things like that you look at.
Yeah.
Might be different. You might need more shade for an event in July and August than you will obviously in February or March.
Yeah. And if you're with a host club and you're interested in trying to host some major events, obviously if you're interested in something like the zones or the World Finals or maybe a major Beagle or Squirrel Dog event, get in touch with the hunting ops department. And we obviously have an understanding or a list of clubs that are interested. You know, you can be put into that conversation. But if you're interested in hosting something on the breed association or the state association level, those clubs govern themselves and they place their own events. So be sure to get in touch with them. They usually have a bid process to get those get the ball rolling on those things.
Sure, and if clubs don't have a contact, they can always contact our department. We'll get them a contact for who to talk about something like that. Next question you have here is how do you select judges for major events? And I'm assuming this is bench show judges, or
that's right. Yep. That's right. And that's something that I've kind of new to, I guess. And in the past few years, I've worked closely with you on determining bench show judges. And I just wrote down a couple different things that came to mind when I was thinking of it. Both of us are at a lot of major events of the year. We kind of keep our finger on the pulse, I say, of the competition community. And one important thing that I always like to think about is kind of who's competing hard at this time. Maybe they have a dog that's coming into their prime and they're hitting every major event there is around. And maybe who's in between a top level dog. Maybe they have one that's a little bit older now and their younger dogs aren't quite ready to compete on the major event scene. Maybe that's something that we take into consideration. Obviously, we want to keep our eye out for new capable judges. I think this year at Winter Classic, we got a couple of young judges that were on the big stage for the first time, and
that
they
was
showed
in the back of my mind too.
Yeah. And then
just to add to that, you know, is that whole group, you know, all three of them were maybe a little bit younger than you might see some of us, especially for all of them, you know, but they did a wonderful job. We got a lot of good reports on the job that they did do. So just because sometimes you have younger judges, they may not have done a whole lot, but we don't shy away from somebody just because they're still young, because some of these younger folks have done a whole lot of homework and are very capable of it as well. And that was proof at our Winter Classic this last year, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last thing I put on here as a note is kind of keep in mind where the event's located. We may look in a surrounding area. We're not going to try to get somebody from New York down to Mississippi. We're going to look at the surrounding states and try to find somebody regional.
Right.
Maybe something we take into consideration.
Right.
So
I don't know. I always think for our events, you know, we don't select the judges for the Grand American, or Walker Days or anything, they do all that. We just do for our own events. But I think it's for us, Winter Classic is always a good springboard or a starting event for us to try somebody, you know, in other words, somebody newer that hasn't judged many major events or big major events. We probably wouldn't throw them into the World Championship ring or maybe even Autumn Oaks, you know, sometimes. So the Winter Classic for us is always a good first one to try some different judges.
Yeah, I know that's something you always keep in mind, and I've kind of gotten that same thing from you, is that it's kind of a start here, and then you can work your way up if you do.
For sure.
Yeah, so
it has worked quite well, actually.
All right, the next one here is a good one to cover here. This is from Courtney in New York, so we appreciate that, Courtney. It says, I showed my dog while the dog was still on puppy papers. The dog's now permanently registered, but the wins aren't showing on the dog's record. What do I need to do?
I like this question here because we do get this one quite a bit, and we have covered it a lot, talked about it a lot, and I think it was in 2015 when we first allowed somebody to enter a dog while it was still on puppy papers, and that's when the conditional entry came into fruition at that time.
Right.
So, and at the time when we permitted that or introduced the conditional entry, and a conditional entry is really quickly is when you don't have your easy entry card or your dog's registration certificate to show the entry taker. So if you don't have that, in the old days, if you didn't have that, you were go home.
Yep.
You could not enter. You could not play.
Yep.
So enter the conditional entry. If you didn't have that, yes, it came with a fee of $5 in addition to the entry fee, but at least you got to participate. You know, so although there was a fee with it, and there's good reason for that, it's not about the money, but we really need your accurate information. With a conditional entry, all you need to do is give the entry takers as much accurate information as you can. And that can be basically no more, no less than that. And don't think too deep into that. And there's no requirements other than giving them as much information as possible. By that, we mean, you know, instead of just Sonny, you know, they give them Gingrich's Sonny owned by Alan Gingrich. Yeah. You know, give them as much information as possible.
That's right.
Do not guess at a UKC number. Leave that blank. Matter of fact, in that spot, they can just put down conditional right at there, you know. Yeah. But with that came number 2, and that is, well, what about a dog that's still on puppy papers? You know, because the whole idea is sometimes if you send your papers to UKC, you just bought this dog, you send it in right away. You were subjected to UKC processing your event work and getting it back to you before you could enter this dog. Well, this is just more of a friendlier approach, this conditional entry. And the same thing with puppy papers. Get them mailed in, and you can do the same thing. You can still enter your dog and while you're waiting on puppy papers. But this is a great question, Courtney, and I'm glad she asked it because I guess I'll let you go ahead. How Courtney's going to deal with it. Yeah. She's going to enter her dog in a couple of events, and then how does she get her points processed? Yeah,
the most important thing is if you're competing with a dog that isn't permanently registered, whether it be the dog's still on puppy papers or you're in the process of single registering your dog, which some of our listeners will probably be doing in the Beagle and Cur Fi stuff more commonly, is to make sure you keep track of where any wins or passes you get are where you're getting those at. You need to keep track of where the club is and the date. That way, whenever you call in to get the points applied, which is what you're going to have to do, whenever you get in your registration paperwork, now your dog's permanently registered, you have your UKC number handy, you have your list of where your wins have been, give the hunting ops department a call or email or whatever you want to do, and we can get those wins applied for you pretty easily if you have all the information there for us. It's a very simple process if that's the case.
Yeah, and that's basically what you're saying. You should wait. Courtney should wait till she gets as soon as she gets her certificate, her registration certificate from UKC, that's when she should contact us.
That's right.
And here's the thing. I think a lot of folks assume that in a case like this, we would make note of it or something to go back and watch when this dog gets registered or what. We don't do that, or we can't really do that. We're not set up to put a flag on it or anything like that to watch for that and then to go back to here or this or that. So we put that responsibility on the owner to keep record of when that is. And then when they call us, tell us those clubs and dates, that's when we go back to those specific event reports and say, yep, we have them here. We'll get your wins on now.
Yep, that's right. And it
works well that way.
And if that's the case and you're competing on puppy papers or your dog has to be single registered, the sooner you can do it, the better, because that's just less headache for you down the road.
Yep. Do not assume that UKC is going to put those wins on that after your dog has been registered without you telling us. You need to make that connection or that correspondence with UKC office and the hunting ops department.
That's right. Yep. You want to ask me our question from William here?
Yeah, William from Tennessee. How long does it take for wins to show up on a dog's record? Good question, William.
Yeah, Lacey in our department works a lot of the chats, and this is probably one of our most common chats that she gets in. And it's a good question, but so much of it is dependent on the host club that's having the event and also the mailing system at some point, how long it takes to get it in. So once the event's over, the host club gets the report to us, and by the time it's here, we're usually caught up on processing reports. It doesn't take more than a day or two.
Yep. That's really what it boils down to. Nothing more, nothing less. You know, some clubs are really good at they have an event on Saturday, and by the next Thursday we have their event reports.
Yeah.
And usually by the next Friday we have it done if we have it. You know, but then we'll have a corresponding officer that stuck the report in his sun visor in his truck, and 2 months later it's like somebody starts calling him. You know, and so that's. All depends when we get the report, but generally within a day or two, the ladies in our department have them processed.
And probably one last caveat to put there is that's assuming that there's no issues or problems on the report that was filled out. Being information that we need on the report that we may not have when it's turned in could cause an issue getting
for
it done.
Sure.
So, all right, I guess it's time to talk some squirrel dogs.
Yeah,
I got a couple questions here for you regarding the squirrel dog segment of it. And the first one here says, we've been told that it's fairly easy to have our coon club set up to hold squirrel events, and UKC would offer some discounted fees. Can you provide some more information on that?
Yeah, we do. We call that a bundle offering, a licensed bundle offering that we have, and that's for clubs. We kind of introduced this several years ago already to coon clubs, and a lot of times the coon clubs are the ones that are most conducive to having squirrel events.
There's a lot of
crossover there. Same type of woods will work for squirrel hunting. So we do offer any clubs like that, coon clubs that want to have squirrel events. Now they would have to get a different ID number. It's very simple for them to set up. They don't just do it under their coon club ID. It's a little different one. It's a simple thing to do. Contact the United Kennel Club. But getting back here to the bundle stuff. So what this is, if you have a coon event or a coonhound event, let's say on this coming Saturday, if you also have schedule a cur or a feist or a squirrel dog event, we would waive the license fees for, if you have a coonhound night hunt, we would waive your hunt license fees for the squirrel part of it. If you have a show on the coonhound show, we would also waive the license fees for the squirrel show. So, and you get that for nothing. Now, there's still the recording fees that are associated with it, but the fees on the front end, those license fees, we would waive.
Yeah, honestly, if you have a good handful of dogs, that could be a good additional income for the club.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, if you think about it, it costs them nothing. You know, so they cannot lose on it. As far as entry numbers go, they can't lose on it.
Right. So are we ready for question 2 here?
Yeah, let's I just want to take it a little bit further. I made a couple of notes here. I wanted to make sure I hit it. So just if you schedule a night hunt, you would get with it. You could get we would waive your license fees for like a cur night hunt or a cur squirrel hunt or a feist squirrel hunt. And I say cur and or feist because those two are separate hunts. They don't compete against each other. They don't compete against each other. And the other one is, let's say you have a or for squirrel clubs that schedule a cur event, we would waive their license fee if they put on a feist event in conjunction with. Be two separate events going on, but at the same time.
Yeah.
And there again, they can't lose as far as monetary or as far as losing money on it for that. So yeah, or if they have a hound show, like we said, if they can schedule a cur show, we would waive that license fee.
Yeah, you can't beat that.
Yeah, pretty good deal.
Yeah. So world hunts are obviously a big thing in the squirrel dog world. Does UKC have any world hunts for squirrel dogs, and when or where are they held? Yeah,
we have one for feist. We mentioned they don't compete together. They used to back in the day, but for the last 5-6 years they've separated. So we have two separate world hunts, one for a cur world championship and the other for the feist world. So the cur world championship this year is going to be at the Murray County Coonhunters Club in Chatsworth, Georgia.
Okay.
So yeah, February 25th and 26th, and that's those are all full elimination events. So that's Chatsworth, Georgia, February 25th and 26th, and 23 here. And then our Feist World Championship is going to be at yet another Coonhound Club, Perry County Coonhunters Club in Tell City, Indiana. That's going to be March 25th and 26th for the Feist World. And there's no qualification requirements, and even dogs that aren't UKC registered, we're set up to single register them there at events at the World Championship. And you can go to our website to get under current Feist events and programs to get more information.
Yeah, those event ads are already out there with all the information that anybody would need on there.
Yeah, and you can those their event ads, everything's there on the website. Click on one of those, and you'll see all the details for it.
Yeah, and I know in some online and in some of the publications that you'll see, there's some other UKC programs for squirrel dogs that we have available.
We do have a Dog of the Year series for both Cur and Feist, and there are two separate ones. We have a Feist Dog of the Year series and then also a Cur Dog of the Year series. And then we also have a third one, and that is for Cur dogs that compete in night hunts. There's a separate, Curs don't hunt with the hounds in the UKC. There's a separate Cur event. And there again, going back to, clubs having a night hunt, they're not going to lose anything by scheduling a Cur event on the same night. It's a separate hunt or what have you. But, and it's all based on cast wins. We record the number of cast wins, and that's how the Dog of the Year series is. And you can see the standings, every monthly standings we publish in Full Cry magazine. And at the end of the year, it's a series that runs throughout the calendar year. And at the end of the year, the top 7 cast winners are invited to a national runoff that happens at the World Hunt on Friday. So for Curs, that's going to happen in Georgia this year at Chatsworth in February, and then for Feist in March at Tell City there. But on the Friday, the day before the World Championship, we have that national runoff for the top 7 cast winners of Curs and the top 7 cast winners of Feist. And it's set up kind of neat to where the dog with the most cast wins is going to get a bye in that first round. So the other 6, and in Curs and Feist, they only draw out in 3-dog casts. So that's why we take 6. So in the first round, you'll have 2 casts as 6 dogs, 2 3-dog casts. Those 2 cast winners then go up in the final cast against the top dog, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then those 3 will compete for the overall title for the Outstanding Dog of the Year. So yeah, Dog of the Year series.
A well-deserved buy for the top performer of the year.
Yeah, it gives them a carrot to kind of go get those most cast wins, and he gets a buy in that first round of the national runoff. We'll be right back.
Alan, we both had Dogtra Pathfinder 2s now for a little while. What do you think about yours?
I'm liking mine. One of the things I had the opportunity to now download a map of an area where I did not have service, and I've used it there, and it has worked flawlessly. I love it.
Yeah, I love the crystal clear maps. I love that I never lose reception on my dog's collars anymore. Highly recommended by me as well. Dogtra Pathfinder 2, the official GPS collar partner of UKC. All right, so we've talked a little bit about squirrel dogs and just some general questions, and we got coonhound questions coming up here in just shortly. But we did get a couple Beagle program questions, so I think you're the man to ask for those here. So I'll just go ahead and ask you the first question I got here. It says, "What's on tap for this year for the Eliminators? Last year UKC had a Derby hunt on Friday. Is that scheduled again for this year? And if so, what are the requirements?"
Yeah, so we're going to have the junior hunts again this year at the Eliminator. Those are going to take place on Friday, and the first time we had that was this year in 2022, where we had the junior. Also had a junior national championship that was held in conjunction with the Hunting Beagle Nationals. The junior hunts at the Eliminators are a prep hunt, if you will, so to speak, for the national championship. But going back to the Eliminators, we have 2. Our first major event for Beagles is the Eliminator East and West. So the East is obviously held in the eastern part of the country, and the West is out west. But they both happen on the same weekend, and participants can choose which one they go to.
Okay.
So it used to be back in the day, it used to just be one, and it was for a long time was held in southern Indiana, in a good central location. But that club kind of dissolved, and we had to move it further east, and then it just wasn't conducive for folks out in Missouri, you know, they had just a long drive. So we came up with the idea of having the East and West, and it's worked quite well, actually. So that is the first major event for Beagles, for UKC Beagles, and it happens the middle of February. This year it's going to be February 18th and 19th. It is a full elimination event. The Eliminator East, again, is going to be held at the South Harrison Beagle Club, or hosted by the South Harrison Beagle Club in West Milford, West Virginia. And then that's just, I'm going to say that's going to be about an hour and a half due south of the Pennsylvania line.
Okay.
Pretty much right. Yeah, right there in the southeast corner of Pennsylvania, pretty much an hour and a half due south of there. West Milford, West Virginia. Then the Eliminator West is going to be held in Ava, Missouri, and hosted by the Douglas County Beagle Club this year. So that's actually a new location for this year in Missouri. And it's the first of 5 annual majors that we have. In UKC, we call them the Big Five for our Beagle program. Starts with the Eliminator in February. In March, we have NHBA Days. That's the National Hunting Beagle Association, their annual event. And then we have the Hunting Beagle Nationals, and then the McVeigh Memorial in September, the weekend after Autumn Oaks. And then it concludes with our World Championship. So those are the Big Five, but that start with our Eliminator. So yeah, we're going to have a junior hunt this year again, and what are their requirements? So for juniors to be eligible for that, the dog must be born on or after May 1st of 2021. And those are the only dogs eligible for the derbies, or in our case, we call them juniors. Single registered dogs must show proof of UKC or AKC parentage in order to be eligible for it. So in other words, we're not going to allow a dog that meets the birth date standards without being able to show proof of parentage and accurate birth dates. And, you know, because we do single registered dogs that if they don't know what the lineage is, they just post nothing. So that's just to keep the integrity of it up. So they are 90-minute hunts, and they do happen on Friday before the Eliminator. So that would be Friday, February 17th. And it's what we call a semi-elimination event. There's one hunt in the morning. I think the deadline is going to be 8 o'clock. And then they take the top 4 high-scoring dogs to go to a winner's pack in a round 2. And then that's how they determine their junior hunt winners at the Eliminator. So then moving on to the juniors at the Nationals, I mentioned that a little bit. They compete only against other juniors, of that age caliber. And UKC does issue a degree of junior national champion to the overall winner. And that's been a big hit this last year. We had a lot more entries than I would have expected. So that was good to see. And then there again, we do have they can compete on Friday or Friday, at the Nationals. And then we take we have a 4-dog winners pack that happens on Sunday at the National to determine the overall winners. And again, that winners pack is comprised of double cast winners first, followed by single high scores for the dogs that make it there. And then obviously the dog that wins that on Sunday is our junior national champion. And it's a pretty big, nice prizes for it and everything. And just really, it really highlights some of the up-and-coming young derbies that are coming along. So they get, instead of competing with other all-age dogs, they compete with the dogs in their same caliber. So it's been a big hit.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Most of the calls that I've fielded recently have been talking about either the Tournament Champions or the Clash of Champions. How many wins does my dog have this year? Yeah. This question here kind of follows that same thing. It asks about the dates for the Clash of Champions in 2023, where the event's being held, and talk about qualification requirements and the payouts. Yeah, well, you could answer a lot of these same questions knowing how the Tournament of Champions works for Coonhounds, because this is basically mirrored on that. The money is not nearly the same, but same weekend and all. Huh?
The regions for it is the same weekend as the Coonhound one, so it's Saturday, April 1st. Yeah, is the date for the regions. Okay, and that's for dogs that are qualified. Locations we have 4 different locations for it. One is in Huntington, Indiana. That is hosted by the Magenica Conservation Beagle Club there in Huntington. Another one is in Waynesburg or Jefferson, Pennsylvania, hosted by the Waynesburg Beagle Club, which is right there in the Waynesburg, PA area. We have one down south in Mountain City, Tennessee, that is hosted by the Creston Beagle Club. They're just right there on the Tennessee-North Carolina line. They're actually on the North Carolina side, the Creston Beagle Club is. but they host the event at Mountain City there in Tennessee. And then out west, we have in Ava, Missouri, the Douglas County Beagle Club. They host the one out there. So 4 different locations. And just like your Tournament of Champions, the participants, those that are qualified, they choose which one they want to go to. And they do that online, just like we do for Coonhounds. And once they'll get an invite, and all the dogs that have qualified, and to qualify, they must have 5 cast wins in 2022 to qualify for the regions. That's the first step for the Clash of Champions. And once any dog that's qualified, they will get an invitation from United Kennel Club, and those will be sent out probably around the 1st of February. And so they should expect them first, second week in February. Those that have 5 cast wins, if they don't get one, they should contact us if they feel like they have 5 wins and didn't get an invite. But nevertheless, they enter online, and only those dogs that are qualified will be able to submit an entry.
Right.
In other words, if they try to enter a dog that's not qualified, it's not going to go through. So then in the regions, we advance 32 dogs out of the regions to go to the Clash of Champions finals that is held on the Thursday before the Hunting Beagle Championship in April.
Okay.
So, and there again, it's prorated. A region that has more entries is also going to send more dogs, to the finals. And the entry fee is $50 for it. But here's kind of a cool thing that we work with the NHBA on. If you are a member of the NHBA, National Hunting Beagle Association, in 2022, if you were a member, that fee is slashed in half. Only costs you $25. Cannot beat this program here. Very affordable. Get your 5 cast wins and enter the regions for it. The payouts for it is it's a $35,000 total purse that we guarantee. $10,000 goes to the overall winner. Second gets $5,000. Third gets $2,500. Fourth gets $1,000 or $1,500 actually for fourth. And then 5th through 8th, those 4 dogs, they each get $1,000 out of that pot. And then 9th through 32nd, they all get $500 each. So if you are one of the 32 to advance from the regions, you are in the money.
That's not too bad there, is it? That's a pretty good deal.
There's the Clash of Champions for Beagles.
Absolutely. Well, we got a good handful of Coonhound questions here, too. We'll see how many we can get through here.
Perfect.
I guess if you want to shoot a couple at me, we can see what we got.
Yeah, the first one I have here on is from Keith from Indiana. He asked this: not enough entries to split same owners. Can you make more casts than the cast breakdown sheet shows is necessary?
Yeah, this is a pretty simple question. Anybody who's been putting on events for a while probably knows right there in the paragraph preceding the official night hunt honor rules. You're going to find a little sentence in there, and it simply reads, all casts must be drawn publicly. Owners having multiple entries will have dogs drawn to separate casts if possible.
Key words here is if possible.
That's right.
And when it's not possible is when you don't have enough casts to do it.
That's exactly right. Yep. Simple as that. You have to go by your cast breakdown sheet. You can't make additional casts just because there's multiple owners that would be hunting together.
Let's take this one step further, Trevor, if you don't care. I know this is not on here, but let's say I have 3 dogs and there's only, let's say there's only 6 dogs that show up for, or less than 8 dogs, less than 2 casts, no more than 8 dogs, and I have 3.
Yeah.
I cannot put, obviously 2 of my dogs are going to have to go in the same cast. There's no way around that, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So now the next question is, can I decide which one of my 2 get split up or how they go?
No, it's got to be a blind draw.
Got to be a blind draw. You're exactly right.
You're at the mercy of the blind draw. Can't fix the cast in any way.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to make a third cast just to accommodate the multiple entries.
Yeah, and we get that sometimes, when somebody has that, sometimes we get the argument, well, I should be able to decide who gets put with who. That's not true.
Yeah, and it's important to note that we've dealt with stuff like this, and not only is the club going to get some reprimanding, but also those owners aren't going to get their win. So make sure that you're keeping up with that because it's kind of stiff penalties there.
Yeah, next question comes from Katie from Virginia. She asks, for clubs that have docks in water races. Hey, this is a good one, a water race question.
Yeah.
For clubs that have docks in water races, if the dog doesn't jump off the dock and goes in the water beside the dock, are they still eligible for points or are they disqualified?
Yeah, I think the important thing here for us whenever we're talking about water race, specifically going into the water or not, is make sure that they're inside the stakes that are determining the boundary of the event. If they're we'll say inbounds or out of bounds. If they're inbounds, then they would not be disqualified, even if they were to jump off onto the land first.
Yeah, and going off the side of the dock, if you can picture this, it'd be better maybe if we had something could draw up some pictures here a little bit. But just because a dog goes off the right or left-hand side of the dock instead of the front of the dock, most docks aren't going to be that wide. Your boundaries should be wider than that, obviously. So just because they go off, so long as they're inbounds, they're fine. But a dog that's going to go off to the side versus jumping off the front, if that dog is competing with another dog, he's going to have a lot of ground to make up.
It's a big disadvantage, really.
A huge disadvantage. Yeah. So for me, if I'm water racing my dogs, I'd want my dogs to make sure they kind of train them to get to jumping off the top, because if they're going to be a little shy of that or what have you, then I'm not going to win many water races if I'm in competition with a dog that's going to want to jump off the side instead of the front.
Yeah, and I think where some of the maybe the confusion may come from is in Rule 13 under the water races and the running rules. It talks about dogs being disqualified if they were to have an unfair advantage due to the lack of the depth of water and not swimming. But I think in this situation, and that's a judge's decision. But I think in this case, the judge is going to determine that a dog that is going to the side and not going directly in the straight path line of water is not going to be an advantage at all. In fact, it's a disadvantage.
Disadvantage, right? Yeah. Yep.
And obviously we see a lot of different docks and setups over the years, and we know that a lot of the docks look good a lot of times a year, but there's things that can cause that water levels to fluctuate. If there's severe droughts, maybe sometimes they're even flooded, that can cause issues in the water race. So we're not ignorant to that fact, and we realize that, and clubs putting on those just have to do the best they can with the resources they have, especially if they have a fixed dock that you can't move around.
Yeah. Yep, exactly. That's a good question from Katie there. We don't get very many water race questions.
Yeah, here's a question that may be interesting for you, and one that we don't have a good question for, but JD submitted it. JD from Kentucky did submit it, so we'll give him some airtime here. It says, with there being more and more ways every year within the UKC to win money, have y'all considered adding money won to pedigrees since it's becoming more and more relevant in the sport?
Yeah, that's a good question, and ironically, it's something that you and I have talked about, and we've got it in our notes, and we've addressed it briefly with upper management. That's not an answer that you and I are going to be able to give per se, but it's something we thought about, especially now with the TOC that we have, and we're working on some other items that are just like the Super Slams and
win money at the World Finals.
Yeah, those type of things where we do, you and I like the idea of, for sure, of recording those monies won on the dog. So we can't really give a good solid answer on that today, but I think we can say it's something that we're very interested in pursuing to do. And I think it would serve us well, really, with some of the programs that we have in place. So JD, that's a great question, JD, and hopefully you can have a little patience with us, and hopefully we'll have an answer to that here before too long.
Yeah.
So number 4 comes from West Virginia. Stephen from West Virginia. He asked this: would UKC consider appointing 2 judges? One, and I'm assuming this is night hunts. Yep. Related to night hunts. One to keep score and one to keep time. You have more than one dog treed in 2 separate places. You have got to get 2 separate stopwatches going for the closing on the tree. It's tough on one person.
Yeah, Stephen, the way the rules are set up right now, there's not an option for 2 judges. And honestly, I think when you really think about it, that could be way more complicated than you're thinking. Having one individual in there to make choices a lot easier than 2 people where they could have different opinions on how to score something, and you're going to open up a can of worms there. But it is important to note that there's already a place in the rule book where you may get some help or relief if you're having trouble doing these things as a judge. I think more so than running 2 stopwatches may be listening for your dog and competing with your dog, and also listening for people's calls and getting them transferred to the scorecard. And that's why in Rule 11A, you'll actually find a sentence in there where it kind of gives you the option for a non-hunting scorekeeper. It reads, scorecards to be carried by judge or non-hunting scorekeeper if all cast members agree, and be scored within plain view of all. So maybe that's a good alternative for someone struggling with that.
Yeah, it is. And that scorekeeper could technically be another cast member, or it could just be a spectator. Period. Doesn't really matter who. To somebody that knows how to fill it out. If I'm the judge, I want want to make sure make sure he's writing everything down correctly, but I can get that help. But yeah, I agree with you. You know, it would not work well to have multiple judges on the same cast like that. I think it wouldn't take long. If you just try it, and you'd soon figure out why it wouldn't work. But, you know, he mentions one thing about keeping time, how complicated or how hard that is. And I think that a lot of that comes with experience.
Right.
You know, and even more so today when we have dogs split up, you know, it's more to keep up with. But you brought in that note-keeping space on the scorecard. I always use that a lot, more than you think. And for me, I'm using the same stopwatch. It's not a problem at all. You know, if I have a first dog declared treed, instead of me carrying multiple stopwatches or something, when the second dog is declared treat, I'll look at how much time has passed on my clock, and I'll write that down in the notes. You know, so it's, let's say a minute 30 is gone on the first dog's tree. I write down a minute 30. That means for this second dog that's declared treat, I need to go 4 minutes and 30 seconds before his time is up.
It's a really good alternative than trying to shuffle between multiple stopwatches.
And if you can keep that in mind, if you can, you know, instead of that's much easier for me to do than trying to keep 2, 3, 4 stopwatches going.
Absolutely.
And I think really more than anything, I think a little experience will eliminate those concerns probably more than. And you have a lot of guys do carry a couple stopwatches, and that's okay. Just don't get them mixed up. You know?
That's right.
But,
that's right.
So we would suggest that over. I don't think setting up with a couple judges per se, where they both have equal say. It might sound good in theory, but does not work well.
Yeah, non-hunting scorekeeper may be just the thing for you if you're having trouble doing that. So,
good question though. Number 5 comes from your home state, Tennessee. Sam asks, if a scratched dog and a dog that remains in the cast tree together before the scratched dog can be handled, is that scoreable tree, or is it interference?
Right.
So you have one dog that was scratched, not yet handled, and you have another dog that's now declared treed, and the scratched dog is with it. How do you handle that?
Right. Yeah. And I noticed he said interference in there, and that's kind of a word that I've learned to cringe at from talking to you. One that for years and years and years in visor calls in different places, it's been kind of debunked that interference isn't a thing that we allude to at all in the rule book. You won't find it at all in the rule book pertaining to not hunt rules. And in this situation in particular, I don't think there's much of interference there. That dog that trees there is eligible for scoring, and further than that, it needs to be scored.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important to get in there and get it scored. Forget about interference and that type of thing. That's not something that you need to worry about at all in that situation.
Yeah, I think maybe more times than not, it's situations where handlers might want to use it to their advantage one way or another.
Sure.
Versus be it, to take points away from a deserving dog or vice versa. So yeah, you've got the right answer.
A lot of times when I talk to people about interference, and it seems like it's quite a bit, we get asked about interference in casts, and it comes down to the breaks. You either have good breaks or bad breaks. Yep. If your dog gets hung up in a fence, it's a terrible break, but that's not interference on the fence. That's whenever people would try to manipulate things. Coyotes came into my dog, or something happened to run my dog off a tree. He doesn't ever leave tree, so something must have happened. We should call interference and that sort of thing. It's not a catch-all term. It's a non-existent term in our rule book, and something that we don't refer to.
Right. There's times when the situations where the rules allow you to call time out, but
and those are outlined in Rule 7, and those are we've talked about that quite a bit in this podcast.
Next one comes from Bobby from Illinois. He asks this: I have a dog that has bitten 2 different opposing handlers at the tree. They have tried to scratch me for it, but it is not in the rules. What is the official rule on it? Oh, Bobby.
Bobby.
Hey, at least he's admitting he has a dog that is, that's not good. I can tell you that. I don't think this answer is going to be very good here. But
yeah, we talked about it a little bit beforehand. He's right. There's no. It doesn't allude to dogs actually biting or attacking handlers or spectators or judges at all in the scratchable offenses in the rule book. Yeah. It talks about scratching amongst dogs, but the first thing is, and there's a reason that it's not in the rule book, right? And you talked about that a little bit to me this morning.
Yeah.
Talking about how. Anytime that you put something into place, there can always be manipulations by people, and we hate to think the worst of people, but it would happen if that were the case and that became a scratchable offense.
Yeah, we talk about pros and cons all the time, and I think what we were talking about this morning a little bit on this topic when this question came up here, But I think you would just open a can of worms. It would be very difficult sometimes, okay, because how much is it, where's that line at?
Right.
How much, what is a bite, or what's the line of scratching or a penalty here? Do they need to draw blood? Does it need to tear garment? Remember this, most of this stuff happens at night, and now are you going to deal with you want to deal with handlers that use it as a tool, a handling tool and things like that, And I think when you really weigh out a lot of things like that, it doesn't take long to figure out that that's not a good thing. And, the way we say and have always said to handle it is no different than you do if the neighbor's dog comes over into your yard and bites one of your kids or you. You handle it the same way. And really, if it's my dog, and something Bobby might consider here, if you have a dog that is temperamental towards humans, it's probably not a good thing, because we would suggest, if I would be more concerned of somebody taking it to filing a civil suit against me. I'm more concerned about that than having a simple little write-up on my dog, because that can go a lot further than that. And to answer his question, what somebody should do if they get bitten is to file a claim or a suit against it, and then the courts will decide whether, to what degree, and assess whatever sanctions or what have you,
Yeah.
But I think we're best served to leave it at that, So I think, again, I'm more concerned about the outcome of that than I am about getting my dog reported to UKC. And again, scratch for fighting is for fighting with dogs in your cast, and only those dogs that are in your cast, not against a coyote or the farm dog or something like that during a cast, or biting a person.
Right. Okay. Moving right along here.
Yeah, you got one here that says, everyone from everywhere asked this question. So this is not one that was in the mailbag, I take it.
Well, this is just one that we get asked everywhere, every day. And I think it's going to be some good information. And we alluded to it a little bit earlier, talking about the TOC here, the Tournament of Champions.
Hey, that's one of your favorite topics. So let me ask the question here, if you don't care. I haven't received anything regarding my dog qualifying for the TOC. Can you check and make sure everything is okay?
Yeah, so this is something that we get pretty often. Everybody, I think there's it's going around there that you would get some sort of paperwork or something telling you that you qualified as the year goes on, and that's not actually how we do it. We take the whole year. We got all the qualified dogs. We actually give ourselves the month of January to get in the rest of the reports from the end of December and such. And on February 1st, and that first week of February, we're going to work on pushing out all of the information that you'll need as far as entering into the TOC goes. So you're going to get a certificate of achievement, basically commemorating your win for qualifying for the 2023 Tournament of Champions. You're going to get an informational sheet that has all the information you need. That's on our ad, but it's just there for you. It gets mailed to your house so you can look it over. And it also tells you how to enter. And kind of a spoiler alert, I guess it's not a spoiler alert, it's going to be online entry only again this year. We have never done paper entry for TOC. We're doing online entry only, and if you have trouble with that kind of stuff, you can always reach out to us and do it over the phone. But I think that's the most efficient way to do it on the turnaround time that we have.
Yep. So the first part of February, you'll get that information. If you have any question, you can always call us. But the other thing to make note of that would be good at this time, there's not a better time to get it done ASAP before February comes around. If you have an address change,
absolutely
make sure you get that updated with us so we do send that information to the right place.
First owner on file is where it's heading. Make sure that address is correct, or you're not going to get that entry information.
Yep, for sure. All right, that's a good one.
Second part of the question there too.
Second part. It has a second part. On the online points check, it shows a total number of wins on my dog's record, but not how many I have this year. How can I check that? And that comes up quite a bit, and that's a great question.
That is a good question. Yep. Right now, the way our online points check system works, it does not have that capability.
It doesn't show the date.
Yeah.
It shows the number of wins, just not the date.
Right. And that's something that we've talked to with our web designers, and then we're working on it. Hopefully we've got some new things coming in the next bit. I don't know a timeline on that, but that's something that we really want added in, and I think that they're going to make it happen for us. So we're excited for that.
It's not going to happen for this next one coming up, but hopefully by next year at this time we will for sure have that place where they can see how many for the current year for this purpose.
So for now, you're wondering if your dog's qualified. There's a couple different ways. The first thing, there's a running list in Coonhound Bloodlines publication every month. That's updated every month. You can always look there. Probably more efficient than that would be online. Every other Tuesday, we do an update with all the qualified dogs, and honestly, the best way to do it right now, if you're curious about how many dogs wins your dog has in 2022, is to get a hold of the hunting ops department either by phone, email, or chat. That's probably the most efficient way.
That's it. And I'll just add to that, when they go to our website, go to events and programs, and then you'll see logos. Just click onto that logo, and that'll take you to whether it's the World Championship or in this case the Tournament of Champions. That's where you're going to find all that information. Do we have time for another one?
Yeah, I think one more.
Okay, one more. Number 8, X-bred question. This is a good one. Jim from Indiana. Can you show an X-bred coonhound? When he says show, he's talking about bench shows.
That's right.
Assume. Good question.
Yeah. X-bred coonhounds are not eligible to participate in any UKC licensed bench shows. First off, there's no breed standards for them. The judge has no way to kind of stack them up against
rightfully
breed standards.
so, because they're mixed up.
Yeah, that's right. So, if anybody's looking for clarification in the rule book, it'll tell you right there under the bench show rules, number 1, it says all UKC licensed coonhound bench shows must be open to all of the 7 coonhound breeds, not the 7 breeds and 1 X-bred breed. So, that's the indicator there that only the 7 coonhound breeds are eligible for bench shows, not an X-bred coonhound.
Yeah, and sometimes we get the argument or the debate. Well, they're coonhounds. You know how they're all basically the same. You know what? Some of the good show judges are going to quickly tell you, no, they're not.
Yeah.
You know, and if you really think about it, I try to throw this out there sometimes. Is okay. Let's say we did allow them to show, and we would really, because they're mixed up. Let's say they have a little bit of this breed and that breed and that. So that really opens it up. You know, you just use anything and everything or whatever. But now you have a purebred, or let's say a true trained walker or whatever, that is being judged against this specific strict breed standard. And then you have an X-bred that you're just judging. It's just kind of wide open. That's not really a good level playing field when one is the true breed is getting judged.
Right. A lot more leeway over here whenever you're talking about. There's no preferred size or coloration and all kinds of different variables.
That's the reason we've always allowed them to earn performance titles, but just not show titles.
Yeah. And hey, we that's kind of the end for our questions today. We sure appreciate everybody sending in their questions for the mailbag. We probably start answering more questions often. If people have questions, feel free to reach out. We'll have links and different email addresses for you to get in touch with us and get out any questions you may have for us that we can answer right here on air. Thanks for listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and to like and follow UKC Hunting Ops on Facebook and Instagram.